Hello and welcome to World Insight's special Spring Festival series on CCTV News. I'm Tian Wei in Beijing. On today's show, Monkey Magic. As we enter the year of the monkey, we speak to a longtime performer of the Monkey King character. We'll also be discussing the monkey's influence on Chinese culture. And wild adventure. Robyn Davidson shares her experiences of Australia's Aboriginal culture and her epic journey trekking 1,700 miles across the Australian deserts with 4 camels and a dog. Happy Chinese New Year to all our viewers. As the Chinese are going ape for the year of monkey, we speak to a British man who has devoted decades of his life to portraying Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, in Peking opera. The Monkey King is one of the key characters from the legend Journey to the West. A longtime favorite among Chinese audiences, he starred in countless books, TV dramas, and movies, not to mention on the stage. Before we go to my exclusive interview, let's get to know the man known as the Western Monkey King.
A grand entrance for the Monkey King. Ghaffar Pourazar, a British man of Iranian descent, has spent more than 2 decades mastering the art of Peking opera. At age 32, he gave up his life as a computer animator and enrolled in an opera school. Decades older than the other students, he became the first Westerner to complete the demanding program.
Good evening, ladies and
7 years later, he started presenting a hybrid bilingual opera production based on his favorite character from Journey to the West, Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. The quick-witted trickster is a timeless classic among Chinese audiences. Pourazar's performances proved a big hit and have taken him all over the globe, including Iran. And he's not just aping the Chinese style, he's making it his own. He helped adapt English classics into Peking opera, created Broadway and jazz mashups, and even made the Monkey King speak Shakespeare's words. Right now, Pourazar's main goal is to bring Chinese opera to a new audience and keep the traditions alive for generations to come.
Now we are joined by Ghaffar Pourazar. Welcome to our program, Ghaffar.
thank you and Happy New Year.
Well,
Happy New Year to everyone in China.
Thank you so much. Well, you are already a Monkey King. I know you have been trying to play the role of Monkey King from the age of 32. That's quite a late age to begin with. Why so fascinated?
Oh, I was a character animator in London, and one night I saw Beijing Opera in London, and those movements so precise, so powerful. I realized that I can only understand the human movement through Beijing Opera. They have researched it for hundreds of years, and I needed to know what kind of training gives the actors so much power, flexibility, and strength on the stage. So I came to study.
Wow. Look at you. You've been doing these kind of performances all over the world, and you are now joining us from LA. The makeup, you did it yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I had to get up early in the morning, and my teachers at the Beijing Opera School, they used to paint half my face, and then I would take a mirror and paint the other half. And that's how I learned at the Beijing Opera School. And then at the Beijing Opera Troupe, they helped me to learn the training.
Yes, indeed. Do you feel convenient now to, in a way, demonstrate to us just a little bit what a real Monkey King is like?
Oh, okay. Okay, well, he just is sometimes. he's just out of control. You never know what the monkey's gonna do. I am the most powerful spirit in heaven and earth. What? A banquet in heaven and no invitation for the Monkey King. I know. I'm coming to the party. And that's when he goes to the King of Heaven's birthday banquet and steals all the peaches. And then drinks all the heavenly wine. So I spent all those years at the opera school learning the warrior, wusheng, and then the Monkey King, and then I received awards for my performances.
Well, good for you.
I even received an award from the Beijing mayor.
Good for you, go far. But on the other hand,
and
what
then-
does this character mean to you, the Monkey King?
The character means spontaneity. It means freedom. It means going where you think. This is Wukong. Wukong is the name of the monkey, and it means to be able to travel into emptiness at the really fast, the speed of light. So it is what people want to do, to be able to do what you want to do. When you think about it, you really enjoy going there. But in life, there's a lot of difficulties. You have to go through a lot of hardship to reach what you want. But the monkey can go there very quickly because he doesn't see the obstacles. So it's a kind of freedom. It's the freedom, excitement of living. And that is why the Chinese people love this character so much.
And it seems that you are enjoying your freedom to a certain extent by choosing the life that you want, because previously, as you said, you were doing other jobs, and now you totally devote yourself to acting at the role of the Sun Wukong, of the Monkey King, and also perform it in various cultures. What were the reactions of people when they watch a character like this?
To Americans, when I want to say Monkey King, I have to say it's the Mickey Mouse and Superman of the Chinese culture. It is the cuteness, 可爱, of the Mickey Mouse and the power of Superman. That's the Monkey King. And when I teach here, I work with Confucius Institute, and with the help of Hanban, who try to give cultural exchange, traditional culture of China everywhere. I try to teach it to everyone in America, also in Europe and around the world. I have taken the Beijing Opera to some countries where they'd never seen, first time in history, they never had Beijing Opera before. So from a computer animator, I fell in love with this art form, and I flew from London to Beijing, and I've been there since. And that is the Monkey King.
Do you miss the culture in China in which the Monkey King was born? What do you miss the most about it?
Well, this time I've been in America for a few months, and I already miss Beijing. I miss the food, I miss my friends, I miss going out and training and being with my Beijing Opera colleagues, because the Beijing Opera is a family. It's an ancient family of artists, and we hope to get more support to promote it. And I miss that excitement of cycling in Taranting, in the south of Beijing, and going to have noodles and tofu and tofu nao for breakfast, and to have jiaozi whenever I want. I miss all of that.
Well, certainly the Beijing delicacies. Well, at the same time, if there were the chance that you are coming back to China in recent days, what would you expect to practice about your skills of acting as the Monkey King? Or which part of the skills you want to improve even further with your masters of Peking opera?
Well, I started with Wusheng, which is the warrior, which is a lot of acrobatics, stage fighting. And later, slowly, I began to realize the singing is so beautiful. Our Monkey King plays are kunqu. So the sound of kunqu is flute-based, whereas the sound of Beijing opera is the jinghu. Okay, and I love I already started singing some Lao Sheng, like in Zhao Shi Gu'er, in the Orphan of the Zhao family. Lao Chen Ma Yin. That is Beijing opera, whereas the Monkey King play is kunqu. 天来天后好用威风好 This is kunqu, and that is the sound of the Monkey King.
Right,
and I want to improve my kunqu and my singing
Wow, there's a lot on your plate, it seems. Now, we are coming to the end of this very brief interview. I want to thank you and say Happy New Year to you, but this is also an opportunity, Gafar, for you to say hi and Happy New Year to all your Peking Opera Circle friends.
Oh, Happy New Year! 新年快乐! Happy New Year! I like to say poetry, but I can't remember it. I just want to say 恭喜发财 is and then 新年好 and Happy New Year to all my friends all over the world, because we've traveled and performed all over the world, but especially my friends in Beijing. Happy New Year of the monkey.
All right, thank you, Gafar Parada. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you. Welcome back. With the Spring Festival, the Year of Sheep has made way for the arrival of the monkey for the year 2016. We've just learned all about the classic Monkey King character, but the monkey's popularity in China goes far beyond just literature. Just take a look. The Chinese are going ape for monkeys.
From monkey movies to monkey cartoons, monkey paintings, monkey lanterns, monkeys are everywhere. Monkey-themed products have flooded the market, and they proved a big hit.
This
is our best-selling item. Sales of Zodiac products doubled this year. We've improved quality and cut profit, and people really love the image of monkey.
You might say Chinese people are going ape for monkeys, but they seem to be going postal as well. This gentleman in Qingdao has been standing in line for hours to purchase a first edition of the newly released monkey stamp from the post office.
I've been here since 6 p.m. yesterday. There was already quite a crowd.
One stamp shows an adult monkey holding two baby monkeys, symbolizing a happy family. The design also echoes recent family planning reforms that allowed 2 children for every family. There are 12 animals in the Chinese zodiac, but the monkey has always proved particularly popular. Those born in the year of the monkey are said to be clever, charming, and crafty. Many couples have even delayed parenthood until the less auspicious year of the sheep draws to a close.
And for more on this, we are joined in the Beijing studio by Ms. Xie Yi, who is the founder of the East Wind Cultural and Educational Organization. She's also visiting professor at the National School of Development with Peking University. Welcome.
Thank you.
And also with us, Professor Teng Jimeng, associate professor from the American Studies Center at the Beijing Foreign Studies University. Happy Chinese New Year to the two of you.
Happy Chinese New Year to you too.
Great to have you. Let's talk about the monkey. Yes, indeed. A monkey is one of the 12 zodiac signs according to traditional Chinese culture. Ms. Xie, help us to understand how unique is it compared to the other 11?
Well, the zodiac culture in China is very unique in the whole world culture. And particularly monkey is actually in comparison with rooster, according to the zodiac signs. Let us think about monkey, which is really dancing around, jumping around, and very flexible. But rooster is really, very functional, very punctual, and stick to the point. So monkey and rooster are the yin and yang of Chinese culture, and monkey represents really clever, bright, and also a little bit
mischievous.
Exactly.
Walking, right?
Yes.
Jumping around.
Rebellion.
Right, rebellious.
Yes. And monkey in this zodiac culture, they like to really run and stretch their arms in the 3 to 5 p.m. per day.
So 3 to 5 p.m., that is exactly this specific zodiac sign it is looking after.
It's the monkey's habit of living.
Interesting. And Chinese kids are especially interested in monkeys.
Wow, they love Monkey King, and they dress up as Monkey King, particularly the boys, and they really like to play the stick. And they imagine themselves always as the Monkey King to pick up the peach and also to really, running around. So I think Monkey King character really represent a children's paradising world. Yeah.
In a way it is, because it's almost like a Xanadu for them in a way. But on the other hand, because Monkey King really represent certain spirit in the Chinese classic literature, Professor Tang.
Well, absolutely. This is the monkey that is considered playful, funny, mischievous, rebellious, at the same time also dedicated and also committed to one master. If you remember the famous literary work by Wu Cheng'en, Journey to the West,
That's
he
right.
was so powerfully kind of dedicated and loyal to his master, Tang Seng, the monk, who is on his pilgrim to India to claim to retrieve the Buddha's scriptures. In this case, the monkey is also held up as the role models for young kids. I remember myself, back in the past, always playing by the stick, standing by my teacher, by my parents, protecting my younger brother from evils and other forces from being bullied.
Probably
And
every Chinese boy has its. He is
Monkey King dream.
a monkey king days, I guess.
That's
but
right.
but on the other hand, he is also a character against establishment.
Well, absolutely. This is basically has to do with the story of the monkey rebellious against the Jade Emperor in the heavenly court, and also being defeated. His story is also very complicated because this is the story of being a person, being a monkey, playing kind of wreaking havoc in heaven, but defeated by the Jade Emperor, defeated by the Buddha, but then eventually he, in a sense, reclaimed himself, redeemed himself by joining the monk to the India, by seeking redemption. So it's also a story of redemption, of salvation, if you seek it sincerely, truly, and bravely in this
And
case.
also reincarnation, in fact, to reinvent oneself to see for one's own future in a way. It is very interesting, a character.
Well,
and talking about this character, it is not just coming from the Chinese culture. It actually has some roots in the Indian culture, ancient Indian culture related to
Yeah,
Buddhism.
prototype.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Explain to us.
Yep. In India, there is a very famous and powerful god monkey named Hanuman. Hanuman is very powerful. He can hold up one mountain with his one finger or one hand, and he's very loyal to his king, and he wants to throw out his heart to show loyalty and devotion to his king, and he just really think all the ways to defeat the demons and also to save the world. So I think this is exactly what Monkey King in China learned from. And in Dunhuang, this 1,000 Buddha cave, there is a painting, right, depicting the story that how this Hanuman really, travels to China and just become Monkey King. So this really represents the deep connection between China and India.
That's very interesting, isn't it? When you look at the cultural roots, all of the things suddenly become very vivid as to where it comes from. Professor Tang, let me just follow up by asking you, not only it is having its Indian roots, but also it's developed with some Chinese inspirations and also Chinese hopes put into this specific character.
Well, once again, I think that this is deeply rooted in the Chinese traditional culture. It has to do with the painting, for example. Oftentimes we see the very origin of this monkey living in the so-called the mountains of flower and fruit. And oftentimes,
花果山.
right? Oftentimes we see them actually playfully, a group of them actually commanded by this very Monkey King. And also, this famous waterfall, the cave with this waterfall. A lot of these monkeys playing in and out and play with the
That
with the
reminds
water.
me of the Jewish land full of milk and honey.
Well, absolutely, there's a lot of
Almost.
connection.
We have various different cultures, but very similar
Right.
in a way phenomena. But it is not just in the journey to the West. In fact, in very traditional type. In fact, it's been made into generations of Chinese cultural products. For example, TV series, and
Right.
movies, and cartoons. You have old versions of cartoons, newer versions of cartoons.
That's
Some
right.
become blockbusters and Peking opera. All of these are all available. So what does that once again reflect about this splendid characteristic of the Monkey King?
Once again, I think it is basically a treasure house of Chinese culture,
Absolutely.
well, in which we can delve deeply into and bring to life a story of the past, a story of ancient Chinese culture and Chinese society, perhaps. If you look at the Monkey King images, you will see the image of rebelling against this Jade Emperor. And back even in the Chinese culture, and particularly in the political culture, back in the 1960s, Chairman Mao would oftentimes refer to Monkey King as the famous image of the rebel. And my personal experience is that when I was visiting the United States in New York, I mean, almost 10 years ago, this professor based at NYU, I mean, had this whole room with monkey images adorned on the walls of his living room. And in that sense, this very image is also translated and transferred into other cultures, inspiring whole generations back in
Not only into other cultures, but also into other spheres of Chinese life. In Chinese phrases, monkey, this specific character, has been used in so many different ways. You help us to understand, because Chinese phrases, if it is a set phrase, it usually have 4 characters.
Right.
And one of them is the monkey. How widely it is being used, how widely meanings it is actually, in a way, transcend.
Right. I think that will goes back to the charm of Chinese culture, particularly the pronunciation.
Okay.
You know, in Chinese language, one pronunciation usually have several written characters. So monkey in Chinese language pronounced as hou. Under the same hou, there's another word named being official, being promoted.
Right.
So in Chinese culture, that people hope that your son can be promoted to be big official. So I will give you a gift with monkey, and it's little monkey or mother monkey. So named that Bei Feng Hou, that from generation to generation, your whole family will be promoted and
Chinese
enjoy.
culture are very good with this kind of symbolism.
Right, exactly.
So this is one of those phrases. Other phrases?
Other phrases is that is monkey with maple tree, because maple tree in Chinese language named feng shu. Maple tree named that you will be given a big fortune or big fame or power. So monkey under a maple tree named that you will be under great honor, under protection.
Well, I
with
guess
protection.
on the New Year's Eve, at least we could recite some of these phrases to bring us more good
Exactly.
fortune. But Professor Teng, you have to confess to me right now. Compare the older version of cartoon Journey to the West and the newer version cartoon. Which one would you like to watch? Let's just say the very first day of the new year. You know, in the Western tradition, people always watch Alice in the Wonderland on the Christmas Eve or on New Year's Eve. But what is the version you want to watch?
Well, the older one, absolutely, back in the
Why?
60s, because everything was portrayed and everything is portrayed very true to its original, the original characters in Journey to the West, in those great stories told through different versions of the story. I mean, if you look at the monkey in this book, for example, I mean, look at this great image, the image of the Monkey King with the special hat, with the stick, and the special color, yellow and red. Nowadays, these monkeys are being transformed. If you look at the recent film, the film version of this hero, the monkey, the hero returns. I mean, if you look at that monkey is so very much influenced by Hollywood.
Exactly.
I mean, that Hollywood monkey version of monkey actually poses like the Superman, like the Spider-Man. It's not
And
the
you
monkey
felt
that I
that
remember.
in a way got away, in a way
Is that it?
lose in a way some of the really glamoring
classical
sense
Quality,
of the
styles.
Monkey King.
Exactly.
right.
The aesthetic,
Aesthetic kind
aesthetics,
of image.
right? The
being-
color, the line, and also the matching and the shape of the peach face. You know, that actually the 1960s monkey really coming from the
Right.
very classical Chinese color painting. And Chinese watercolor painting.
Watercolor
with
painting.
Peking opera,
Right,
with
right.
all this.
So is an ultimate question. I mean, at the end of our program today, we really need to discuss very briefly. What is the strength of our culture? You know, on the very first day, this may be a heavy topic, but every time when we discuss about Chinese traditional culture, it always eventually fall on this very important point. What is the really strength of our own culture? What is the part that we should always hold very dear? What is the part that we can get rid of, Professor Teng, from Monkey King story?
Loyalty, the love of one's family, the love of one's community, and also transcendence, the transcendence in terms of values and also old way of life being now transcended and also reinvented. So our culture basically associated with the monkey is reinvention, vitality, and also reincarnation perhaps, and at the same time the kind of a great liveliness and the fun that we cope when we cope with challenges.
And never forget the real essence of our culture as being reflected in the traditional Chinese cartoon of the Monkey King.
For me, I would really love our international friends to read Chinese secrets from Monkey King, because when we talk about traditional China, we think it's hierarchical, full of rules, full of regulations. But look at Monkey King. He's so rebellious. He's so loyal to his heart. He's so loyal to what he believes is truth. Regardless what his master say, he said, this is a monster, I have to beat him, die. So he's true to the truth. He's true to the truth. So that is the deconstruction for the construction. That is the breakthrough before is coming to the new world.
Yes,
that is the
indeed.
yin and yang, the individualism, the I, the true I within Chinese culture.
Wow, Monkey King shoulders a lot of Chinese culture on his shoulders, but certainly very interesting. He seems to be an entrepreneur in today's sense, in a way, and also an institutional player as well, obeying the rules while at the same time respect others. Well, for now, I have to thank both of you because we're running out of time, and we really appreciate for your coming on the very first day of the new year. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Xie
very
Yi
much.
and also Teng Jimeng. Thank you.
Thank you.
And stay with us here on World Inside. We got our final segment coming right up. An adventure in the wild. Robyn Davidson talks about Australian Aboriginal culture and her epic journey across the continent. Welcome back. You're watching World Inside's Spring Festival special series on CCTV News. Imagine yourself traveling with only camels and a dog for company across the vast desert of Australia. You are cut off every modern convenience. You wake up to the desert sunrise and fall asleep under a star-filled sky. For 9 months, this was the life of Robyn Davidson, the so-called camel lady who undertook a 1,700-mile trek in Australia in the year 1977. Recently, I had the chance to sit down with her to find out more about this extraordinary woman and how her trip changed her perspective on life. But before we go to my exclusive interview with her, let's find out more about her amazing trek.
One woman alone in the desert. When Robyn Davidson embarked on her ambitious journey across the Australian outback, she didn't think it was that big of a deal. Then 27-year-old Davidson spent the vast majority of the year 1997 trekking across the vast Australian continent, with only 4 camels and her dog. She suffered many hardships along the way, suffering from dehydration, tending to sick camels, and overcoming cultural differences with the Australian Aborigines. With the help of National Geographic photographer Rick Smolin, but much to her reluctance in the beginning, the journey was captured in vivid color and detail. During the trip, Smolin came out to meet her on several occasions. Davidson eventually made it to the Indian Ocean, where she took her camels for a triumphant swim. It was the end of her journey, but she would spend the years that followed sharing her story with the world, first in her best-selling memoir Tracks, and later in the big screen hit of the same name.
You know, if you put yourself in that vast landscape and you're on your own and you're walking day after day after day, you do change, your consciousness changes. So even though I hadn't really thought that that would happen, I hadn't expected that to happen, it was very, very good when it did.
Your relationship with the camel, they all love you. They want to sleep with you.
Yes, they did.
And they want to follow you.
Yes.
They stolen your food.
They were very easily bribed by handouts, yes, they were.
Just like kids, right? In a way.
Rather like kids.
Yeah.
I would put them on a sort of intellectual level with maybe 5 or 6-year-old children. They were very funny, they were very witty. So for example, at one point in the journey I'd let them go and Dookie came back around behind me and took my whole head in his mouth. Now what he could have done is just crush my head, but he just sort of held my head like a helmet and then took his head away and sort of leapt off like a joke. It was a joke.
People look at you very differently because people feel you and us. You are the adventurer.
Yes.
What do you think about this divide?
I've always said that I would want people to see what I did as something applicable to their lives. And I don't mean by that that they should drop everything and cross a desert, obviously not.
Next time you go, you let me know.
Yeah, okay.
By the way, it may
Yeah,
not be a
right.
bad thing.
But that the metaphor of the journey, that is, that you can do something outside of the expected or the conventional. You can be bold, you can take on a challenge, and it doesn't matter how that manifests in your life. The principle is the same. And by doing that, you grow, you evolve. And really, I don't think we do evolve until we take those risks and start testing boundaries. The other thing to say about the luck of the journey was that I came across an old Aboriginal man, or he came across me rather.
Mr. Eddie.
Mr. Eddie. And this extraordinary thing happened, an unprecedented friendship across a great cultural gap. And for some reason that I'll never know, he decided to come with me for a month during that journey. And that provided the heart of the journey for me, because I learnt such a lot from him, even though he didn't speak English and I hardly spoke any Pitjantjatjara. He taught me how to actually be in that desert. Before I'd met him, I'd had an alarm clock. Can you believe it? I had an alarm clock. And I put the alarm clock on at night, and if I didn't wake up when the alarm told me to in the morning, I'd feel terrible Protestant guilt. And I think what he forced me to do was get rid of the old, the old cultural attitudes
City
that
life
were,
cliche.
yes, that weren't of any use to me out there, so that I could then proceed to become more integrated into the place I was in.
How can you be more integrated as he taught you?
After I left him, even though I was as remote as it's possible to be from other human beings, I have never felt so linked to everything, so at home. So the paradox was that I was extremely alone, but absolutely not lonely. Whereas in the past I could be surrounded by people and quite lonely.
Give me an example. Is that about the tree, about the dog, about the 4 camels, about the little boys and girls you saw in the Aboriginal communities, the one who are surrounding you?
No, it was more to do with when I was completely on my own. It was a sensation of being at home in the world. That's what I would say. The stripping away of the kinds of qualities that I needed in the urban environment, stripping that away to become at home in a desert environment and being alone, that was quite difficult. But what was more difficult was coming back into my own culture. That really was profound culture shock, and in some ways I think I've never properly come back.
What was it like for you when you quote-unquote came back?
When I ended that trip, 2 weeks later I was in New York after having been alone for 9 months. So I was walking through New York thinking, this is insane, this is insanity, these people are mad, they're mad. And I think it's very good to have had that perspective on my own culture as well. It's made me always question the normal.
What do you think are the basic textures that we need in our society? What do you think are the things that we can simply throw away, just like the alarm clock?
Well, of course now it's being connected all the time. And it's very, very difficult now to disconnect. It's almost impossible to get beneath the radar. I think it's becoming illegal to get lost. But you see, I think, right through human history, there's been an impulse to disconnect, to go on some sort of metaphorical journey, if not a real journey. And it's, I think, deep in our psyches to need to do that in order to come back a a better person or a stronger person or a different sort of person. People are constantly in a state of distraction, and it can't be good. We have to have an alternative to that. I don't mean to totally disconnect, but to at least take time to regenerate one's individuality away from that noise of distraction.
Indigenous peoples were the culture under threat. Australia's Aboriginal peoples were the sole inhabitants of Australia for 50,000 years. They used to live in small nomadic bands, living the existence of hunter-gatherers. After 1770, British explorer James Cook's arrival began a 2-century process of cultural obliteration: disease, capitulation, and forced integration. Today, Australia is home to 500,000 Aboriginals, less than 3% of the total population. Few have learned to perform an Aboriginal dance or hunt with the spear. But many anthropologists credit Aboriginals with possessing the world's longest enduring religion, as well as the longest continuing art forms. But many fear that the traditional Aboriginal way of life is now, by most real measures, all but extinct.
How do the Aboriginals in Australia look at families? And what about their tradition about families to you?
Well, family is much more complicated in Aboriginal communities. They're nomadic, inherently nomadic people. Hierarchy is not important. So it's a very level society. But everyone is related to everyone else in some way, which means that you know what your duties and responsibilities are to each person each person you come across. You will know what's expected of you, what's not expected of you. Family, of course, you know, Aboriginal culture at the moment is under great pressure. There are huge social problems.
What are these?
Alcohol, social disintegration. It's the aftermath of colonisation. There's a lot of disease, illness, and I think it's terribly hard for younger people. Mr. Eddy was of an older generation, so although he'd seen terrible things, he still had the old ways to fall back on for his identity. He was still very much a traditional person. Whereas I think for younger Aboriginal people it's terribly difficult to find their way between those old ways of being and what they have to deal with in the modern world. And some communities are happier than others, but generally speaking it's a tragedy that is still unfolding.
What are people doing about this? Do you think that's sufficient at all? Or actually, as they say, cultures sometimes just disappear?
I would hope that's not true. I think that Aboriginal culture was a truly great culture. I think of it as I think of the Greeks.
What's comparable?
The myths. The idea that everything in the universe, in the cosmos, can be contained within one grand theory of everything, which is the dreaming. It's like a huge poem, so it's both stories and poetry and song and art and human relations and how to be a good person and how to survive in the landscape, how to look after everybody so that no one goes hungry. They solved all the major problems and they did it with nothing. So it would be a terrible, terrible thing if that way of thinking disappeared forever.
What about with Mr. Eddy? The way you got to know him, the way the trust established, and later your interaction with him or his family.
He took me along a segment of his dreaming, which means his totem. So as we were going along, he was singing the country as we went.
How sweet.
Oh, it was, I was so lucky, so privileged, because that man was living really as his ancestors had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. And yet we met and sort of understood one another. It was like a love affair, I guess. It was a kind of love affair. And in fact, when I went back to see him the first time...
that was when?
That was like 2 years later, something like that. I discovered that he'd made me his wife.
How could he make you his wife? How did that happen according to their tradition?
Well, if you go into an Aboriginal community, you will be put into some sort of category, what they call a skin category. Now, normally he should have made me his sister or his daughter-in-law or something like that. The fact that he made me his wife was a much more intimate bond, obviously. And when I arrived, I didn't know what that might mean. It was a slightly awkward couple of days, but it was fine. But it meant that I inherited his family, so his son is my son, even though my son is older than me.
Mm. You've been a global nomad, I would say. So why repeatedly?
Well, I've never done a journey like that again, but I did become very interested in nomadism because of my time with Aboriginal people, and I started to think a lot about the fact that how we move from place to place, how we set up a home or not set up a home, affects culture, how we think. I realized that in the modern world, those traditional forms of nomadism are disappearing very, very fast. So that whole way of thinking and being in the world is vanishing. And I ended up very sad to see that way of life going, because it made them, I think they were truly cosmopolitan people, because they had to negotiate with difference all the time. Mm.
As you just said, they were compromising already. There are regional ideas and strengths just to be alive, to keep their original way of life. And yet, wouldn't that make the original life losing its original flavors? And therefore, is it still worthwhile?
I think it is still worthwhile. And of course, no culture is absolutely separated and pure. We're always changing and negotiating. But I think the fact of their movement is what makes their way of being in the world different from settled people, and that is what ultimately will change for them and will make them just like everyone else.
What do you think would happen to the nomads worldwide?
It will end. It will definitely end. I think we're losing something fundamental there. That's what I mean. It's not just sort of decorative, it's fundamental.
Miss Davidson, such a pleasure to know you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Thank you.
Mm.
Well, that's our interview with Robyn Davidson about her amazing journey of self-discovery. With that, we come to the end of our show today. Today is the Chinese Lunar New Year, and here's hoping that coming year holds as much discovery and wonder for all of us as Miss Davidson experienced in her epic trek. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone at the World Insight team, thanks for watching, and tune in again tomorrow for more insights from across China and around the world. Good night and happy Chinese New Year.